Hello, Zero Books readers. This video will take an excerpt from Nina Power's One-Dimensional Woman and some ideas from Rob Larson's Capitalism versus Freedom in order to answer this question. Can intersectionality get us to the good place? But before I start, I should probably give you a warning.
We do have to warn everyone that there are spoilers ahead.
Major spoilers.
Spoilers in the house!
Okay, so there are spoilers ahead, but let's tackle that question of intersectionality. Just what is it? Kimberly Crenshaw was the first to use the term in the context of feminism. And what it referred to then, back in the 80s, was that the interconnected nature of social categorizations, such as race, class, and gender, meant that any given individual or group had to be considered not from the perspective of one of these categories alone, but in terms of where the group or person fit intersectionally. We might consider intersectionality as a Venn diagram which allows us to understand the ways any particular person or group is disadvantaged in society. An intersectional approach to politics always has the goal of overcoming discrimination and disadvantage in order to rectify an injustice in the world. In her essay, Demarginalizing the Intersection of Race and Sex, Kimberly Crenshaw used a lawsuit against General Motors to illustrate the need for intersectionality. During the trial, it was revealed that General Motors simply did not hire black women prior to 1964, and that all of the black women hired after 1970 lost their jobs in a seniority-based layoff during a subsequent recession. This was not taken to be a type of sex discrimination, because while General Motors was not hiring black women before 1964, they were hiring women. General Motors also hired black men before 1964. The court rejected the idea that a special class of protection for specifically black women should apply. When the court rejected the claims of the plaintiffs in the case, they did so precisely because they refused to judge the discrimination claim in an intersectional manner. Crenshaw notes that this failure to create new classes for protection based on combining categories means that the court was opting not to protect people who were really being discriminated against, not for their race and not for their gender, but based on the combination of both of these categories. In another essay by Crenshaw, she tackles the topic of black women in women's shelters, and she says rightly that, quote, many women of color are burdened by poverty, childcare responsibilities, and the lack of job skills. These burdens, largely the consequence of gender and class oppression, are then compounded by the racially discriminatory employment and housing practices women of color often face. But it would be a mistake to conclude from these observations that it is simply the fact of poverty that is at issue here. Rather, their experiences reveal how diverse structures intersect, since even the class dimension is not independent from race and gender. End quote. The problems that arise at this point are complicated. Namely, while it is undoubtedly true that the trouble facing women of color can't be reduced to a question of poverty, it is also true that poverty is the one issue that neither the courts nor a woman's shelter can address. In many ways, the legalistic intersectional approach to inequality that defines Crenshaw's politics is similar to the approach Borowski, Brown, Ness, France, and Burke from the reality TV show Queer Eye take when they assist schlubby straight men attempting self-improvement. Consider the first season of the new Queer Eye, specifically an episode entitled Camp Rules. In it, the gay crew visits a man named Bobby, who is a father of 6 living somewhere in America and working 2 full-time jobs to make ends meet. His house, predictably enough, is a cluttered mess that Vulture magazine described as looking like someone held an indoor yard sale. The Queer Eye crew set to work cleaning the house, buying Bobby a new wardrobe, setting up a system so that the children clean the new decor and keep it neat and tidy, getting Bobby a haircut. But the big problem in Bobby's life, the fact that he works a day shift and a night shift 5 days a week, the fact that he only gets 3 hours of sleep a night, that isn't fixed up or made over. Another way to understand intersectionality is by considering the NBC television series The Good Place. The Good Place is about life after death. It's supposedly about a group of people who have died and found themselves in an afterlife designed to be perfect, be just exactly what each of them would want for eternity. However, something has gone wrong. One of the newly arrived innocents of the afterlife doesn't belong there. Eleanor Shellstrop, the bad egg in the afterlife, commits one sin after another, and with each sin she commits, the town experiences a disaster. In the show, one of the, quote, good people decides to help Eleanor out, to teach her morality and ethics so that she can stay in the good place and not be tortured for all eternity. Cheedy decides that he won't turn her in, but instead will help her hide amongst the good people. They set about to correct all of her bad behavior, hoping that if they can fix every bad impulse, they can set the town to right. Only there's one fact that they don't know, and that will end up ruining all their plans. The town isn't really the good place at all. The fact is that what bills itself as a good place is actually a bad place. It's the bad place, and the entire scenario is a kind of nuanced psychological torture. This is the trouble with intersectionality. It presumes that there is a way to escape oppression in the current society. It sets up the idea that there already is a type of person who is treated fairly and equitably, and that the aim should be to eliminate all different circles in the Venn diagram, to address not just the categories of inequality, but their intersections, in order to create an equitable world. This is why defining class properly is so important, because class is not something you are, but a process that you participate in. Your class doesn't define who you are in the good place, but is instead the way the supposed good place really operates. In her book, One-Dimensional Woman, Nina Power avoids pointing the finger or finding someone to blame for the problems and failures either on the left, amongst feminists, say, or in the broader society. She writes that there is no better world or good place that has been obscured or denied to us by an illusion or by some alien power. She does not believe that there is a state of nature to return to, or that we can simply strip away what is bad in this world and find something better. Rather, according to Power, the difficulty is that we have constructed a social order, and now global society, that operates through a set of social relations that makes our material existence possible, but that also causes disasters and that ensures that no sort of justice, equality, solidarity, or peace will ever fully obtain. Rob Larson, in his book Capitalism versus Freedom, agrees with Power. The difficulty isn't that the bourgeois or pro-capitalist economists had bad aims, but that their very conception of freedom was shaped by the system of capital, of commodities, of class. According to Larson, no amount of tinkering from within capitalism will create the conditions that people like Milton Friedman and Friedrich Hayek claimed to be pursuing. From within the capitalist system, there can only be one realm of freedom, namely the market, while the realm that matters most, the realm where decisions are really made, namely the realm of production, remains the one in which working people lose their freedom. It is the job, the workplace, and the career where people are the most constrained, where they are the most unfree. The argument from Marxists against intersectionality is not that we should ignore these interlocking oppressions. It is not that marginalized people simply must grin and bear it and join the revolution. It is rather that, in order to overcome rather than rearrange these discriminations and inequities, we need to take into account both the truth of our intersections of oppression and the totality called class that underpins them. Thanks for watching this Zero Books video. If you enjoyed it, you might click on that subscribe button and the bell. You might also consider supporting us on Patreon. We're now offering patrons access to select Zero Books titles and the opportunity to join in a monthly Zero Books Club discussion group